What's up guys, Jonny May here and welcome to this week's quick tip where I'm going to teach you what I think is the best exercise to practice your scales if you want to play jazz piano. Now, one of the biggest issues I see with piano students is they practice their scales one way. They practice them up the piano and they practice them down the piano. And this is a great exercise if you want to work on technique, but it's a very limiting exercise because you're seeing your scales from one angle. You see, if you want to play jazz piano, you need to be able to play your scales starting on each note of your scale. We actually call these modes. And if you want to improvise jazz piano, you need to know your modes. So in today's exercise, not only are you going to learn a great exercise to practice your major scale, but you're also going to learn how to practice your modes so that you can be a better jazz improviser. So let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, so the exercise is actually a very simple exercise. I'm going to give you sort of a broad overview to start, and then I'm going to break down exactly how to do the exercise. But on a very basic level, we're playing the notes from our C major scale, right? They're all white notes. And we're just practicing up and down the scale with these white notes, but there's kind of a little trick, okay? And the trick is, once you've played up and down your C major scale, you then want to play the same scale starting on a D. Right? If you play the same white note starting on D, you end up with this, right? D to D, and then you come back down, right? And then you could do this on an E, okay? So that's kind of the basic thing that we're doing. We're playing a C major scale, but we're just starting on different notes from the scale. We call these scale degrees. And this is huge if you want to play jazz piano, because when you're improvising jazz, basically, I was just improvising using notes from the C major scale, but the way that I was able to make my solo sound so interesting is that I've practiced this exercise so that I can basically create a line on any note from the scale. So that's kind of the goal here. This is why I'm teaching you this exercise, is so that when you're improvising, you can start on any note of the scale you want to create your lines. Now, in jazz, we call these modes. It's kind of an intimidating term for a lot of beginner jazz students, but if I take a major scale and, in this case C major, and I start on the second note of the scale, which is the D, we call this D Dorian, okay? D Dorian, and it's a mode in jazz. It's one of the important modes to know if you want to improvise. And so each one of these has its own name. If I play a C scale starting on the E, we call this Phrygian, okay? Phrygian. And F, if we play the C scale starting on F, we call this Lydian, okay? And the G, if we play the C scale starting on G, we call this Mixolydian. And the C scale starting on A is called Aeolian, okay? Don't let these terms confuse you. They're just the technical names, but you can just simply think of it as a C scale starting on each of these respective notes. This B here, if you play a C scale starting on B, we call this Locrian, okay? B Locrian, okay? Now you don't need to memorize all of these terms. If you do want to do a deep dive on modes, you can over at pianowithjonny.com, but I just want to give you a basic understanding of what you're doing here. But again, the way I recommend thinking of this is it's just your C scale starting on different notes of your C scale, okay? So that's kind of step number one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to practice this scale going up and down, and here's the trick, okay? We're going to play it on a C major chord to start, C and E. We're using a little chord shell down here, and we're going to walk up the scale. This is the C major scale. If you don't know the fingering, it's C, D, E, and then I cross my thumb under F, G, A, B, C, and then we come down the scale, third finger on E, and now here's the little trick. We're going to throw a little chromatic connector. That C sharp gets us to the D, and then we go to the D and we play the scale up. Same fingering, 1, 2, 3. We're going to go thumb on G, all the way up to the D and bring this down. Third finger on F, chromatic connector, that D sharp. Now we're going to hit that E and we do the scale up and down on the E. Okay? Does this make sense? So you're always going to use what's called a chromatic connector to get you to the next note. By the way, if you're enjoying this lesson, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. Now I want to get to my F. What's my chromatic connector to F? Well, in this case, I would use the upper chromatic connector, which is the neighboring note above our target note F. So I would use the F sharp to get us to the F. And you can do this, by the way. You can use a chromatic connector that's above the note. Okay, so we do this on the F. Same fingering. You can do thumb on the B. And we take this down, third finger on the A. And then F sharp, chromatic connector to the G. Same fingering, use the thumb on the C there. Bring this down, chromatic connector, G sharp to the A. Okay, we bring this up, same fingering. And then we're gonna go A sharp, chromatic connector B, same fingering. And then we're going to do a chromatic connector to C. We're going to use the upper neighbor chromatic connector to get us back to our C. Okay? So guys, what you basically just did is you practice all of your modes, but you did it in an interesting way with these beautiful chromatic connectors. You're making it very musical. Now make sure you're swinging the notes. You want to have the swing feel 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, that's going to be really important to get the right feel, 1 and 2 and 3, because we're playing swing music here. Now I want to add some left-hand chords to make this sound a little bit more interesting. So go ahead and play these with me. We're going to start with a C and E in our left hand. This is called a chord shell, and it's basically 2 notes from our chord, which is called a C major 7 chord. This is a chord we'll see a lot in jazz music. So we're playing very simple 2 notes for each chord. Second chord, we're going to play this root 7, this A and this G, on an A minor 7 chord. Again, it's called a chord shell. If you don't know your chord shells, you can do a deep dive over at Piano with Johnny. Next chord is a D minor 7, D and F. It's the root and the third of a D minor 7 chord. Again, it's a chord shell. And finally, our last chord is a G7, G and F. And this is the root and the 7th of a G7 chord. And you can see all of the chords written here. These are called 7th chords, and if you don't know your 7th chords, you can, again, study all of these over at Piano with Johnny, okay? By the way, guys, this is called a turnaround chord progression in the key of C. It's a 1 chord. This is a 6 chord in the key of C. This is a 2 chord, and this is a 5 chord in the key of C. This is the most important progression if you want to start jazz piano. And we actually have a really excellent course on soloing over this chord progression. It's called Soloing Over the Turnaround. I'll put a link to that below. But let's talk about how to play this exercise over these chord shells. And it's actually very simple. So first chord, I'm going to come up 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and A minor 7, we're gonna jump to this chord and we're gonna play it on the way down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D minor 7, 1, that's gonna connect there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then G7, we're gonna come down, same scale, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and we're back to where we started, okay? So basically this is gonna continue 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and F 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1, right? And the exercise continues. Okay, this is something that you can build speed on as you go. Now, I do want to recommend that you pop some of these chords. You actually want to play kind of an interesting groove here. So one option here, and we actually notated this here in the lesson sheet music, is to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So when you're playing your scale, 1 and 2 and, you're going to line it up there on the and of beat 2. And that makes it a little more interesting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, okay? All right, so you want to get this to speed. Once you're feeling kind of good about this, go ahead and try playing with the backing track. This does come along with several backing tracks. There are actually 4 backing tracks at different tempos, so you can practice with this. Let's go ahead and play it at the 80 BPM. This is kind of a slower tempo, and then we'll do it at the fastest tempo, okay? Here it is at 80 BPM. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And D, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. To E, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To D, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To G, 2, 3, 4. Doing a great job. To A, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. To B, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, 2, 3, 4. And stop there. Okay? So it's a ton of fun, as you can see when we start playing with the backing track. Do want to mention here that the lesson sheet music you're seeing up here in the top left of the screen and all 4 backing tracks are downloadable at pianowithjohnny.com. You can also print the sheet music and you can change the key of our sheet music with one button with our smart sheet music. So I'll put the link to all of that below. You want to build your speed on this, and once you're feeling pretty good about this, if you want to play at a faster tempo, here's the fastest tempo. This is 200 BPM if you really want to challenge yourself. Here's how fast it is, and go ahead and try playing with me. G, A, B, beautiful thing is you can actually continue this exercise by going up and down on C in that higher octave. Alright guys, this concludes this week's quick tip, and if you enjoyed this lesson, I want to encourage you to check out pianowithjohnny.com. We have over 800 step-by-step lessons in jazz swing, cocktail jazz, Latin jazz, theory, technique, improvisation. It is the full learning platform for all playing levels. Also be sure to check out the Piano with Johnny membership. This gives you unlimited access to all of our courses, plus you get to be part of our live monthly events, including our live Q&As where you can ask me practice questions, our live workshop lessons. We do student assessments where you can send me a video and I'll give you personalized feedback. We do weekly challenges for our members, student collaborations, and we have a ton of fun. So go check out Piano with Johnny, and I'll see you in the next lesson.